Hello, my name is Debbie Hepplewhite and I'd like to share with you my tips for teaching joined handwriting. The style I've developed is fully joined and it's suitable for teaching children from about 7 years of age. First of all, I advocate that we don't join the capital letters. So in terms of the capital letters, we're just doing a style which is what we would do with print writing. And then I suggest we use the style which is very dyslexia friendly, where we start the joined letters from the line. But if you notice, I have a join which is really a very straight line. So for my students, I draw a square, and within that I say this is one of our joins. It's a diagonal line from bottom left to top right. I draw another square, and these are about half the height of the lines, and this is our second join, and I call it a washing line join, but you might call it a smile. The only other variance is for when we go into letter E, when that diagonal join dips down, it swoops down slightly to form the top curve. Or if this is coming from a letter with a washing line join, we dip down with the washing line join to form that curve. So it's really very straightforward. So we start on the writing line, put our pens there, and we do the diagonal join, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, do the washing line join, down for the I, diagonal join, down to form the N, bridge, swoop round for the E, diagonal join, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, straight up and down, flick, and then we dot the I. So all of these letters are joined. So we start off with what can be the hardest letters, which are the C letters. Some people say they're the curly letters. And we always start on the line to teach the letters, and to teach the letters one by one. So we do that diagonal join, hook over to reach the point where we would normally join the letter C, write the letter C, and then we go back and round and flick in preparation to join on to the next letter. So I would make sure that the students, the pupils, the learners can do this very well before going on to the next letter shapes. So it would be diagonal line, hook over, back and round and flick. Now what we want to avoid is a shape where we're not forming that hook over. So we do the join and then we're premature in curling round. Or that we do a flick like that at the beginning, which I call a ski slope. These are shapes that we want to avoid. When a learner is used to doing this, all of these letter shapes start in this way. So, diagonal join, hook over, back, round, catch the hook, down and flick. And do several of those until the learner has perfected it. Diagonal line, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, up and down, flick. Diagonal line, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, straight down through the writing line, and then a very thin loop and a flick ready to join on. For the letter O, diagonal line, hook over, back, catch the hook and washing line join onto the next letter. For the letter S, we've got diagonal line, hook over, back and round, and then with the flick to join the next letter. And then with the Q, diagonal line, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, straight down through the line, loop back in a parallel way until you hit the writing line, and then diagonal line to form the letter U. And if the learner can, practice those together, because in the English language those letters are always written together. Slight variance for the letter F, diagonal line to half height, and then up and hook over, and back and straight line through the writing line, and then thin loop with a flick. Now what we're avoiding here is, once again, for example, if pupils are doing letter A, that they don't do the hook over, they do the diagonal line with a partial hook. So when they want to catch that, they have to go right up, and then it ends up being a bit like a hairstyle. And the other one is, sometimes what happens is learners know they've got to get that bit in. So instead of doing this to half height, like to there, they sort of overcompensate and make that letter a much bigger size than it needs to be. If you notice, I haven't bothered with any of those half height tram lines, because I think that people have to be able to judge with their eye when something is small or needs to be that half height. If you teach children with lots of those tram lines, it can be really confusing when they go and transfer to an ordinary exercise book. So they are the curly letters, or the C letters. The next group of letters we're going to do are the ones that have got a tall stick. So we do the diagonal line to half height, up, down, flick. Diagonal line to half height, up, down, flick, and then cross over. And what we're avoiding is this. Either the join going right up to the top of the letter, and then pupils tend to cross like that, or where you don't have a lovely spacing line and it goes up the stick like that. And when people go up like that, letters become very squashed in, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So here we have another series of letters which are very good to do in order. Diagonal line, up, down, and then the bridge over, flick. Diagonal line, up, down, the bridge to go on to form the B. Diagonal line, up, down, and then form the bow for the letter K. What you need to avoid here, once again, is going up the stick. And some children will go up and make a bigger bow, and it's almost like a capital R. Or sometimes they see a capital R and think it is a K. So we have another lovely series here which go together, starting with this letter R. Once again, diagonal to half height, and then straight down, and then a bridge and the washing line. Diagonal, straight down, full bridge, flick. Diagonal, straight down, bridge, bridge, and then flick. That's a really nice series of letters to learn in a stretch. And then going on from there, which starts the same, diagonal, straight down through the line, right back up, and form the bowl to sit on the line. I like to teach these two together because in some ways they're similar because of the dots, but it's diagonal, straight down, flick and dot, diagonal, straight down through the line, thin loop and dot. And what we need to avoid there is where we get this. We get that diagonal, but we don't get a line going straight down. It's at an angle. And of course we all know people who go on to do this or do a silly shape. They can do that when they're personalising their writing, but in school we're going to do this. Now I also suggest when you adopt any school handwriting, you need to make sure that every adult in the school can write that school handwriting well. So if you're expecting the pupils, the learners, the students to do that joint handwriting, make sure that every teaching assistant and teacher can do it. Here's another nice couple of letters to teach together. Diagonal, and then the bowl. Flick, diagonal, bowl, down through the line, thin loop. These are nice to teach together. Diagonal, and then It's a bit like a zigzag for the V, washing line, diagonal, zigzag, washing line. And of course, this is what we're trying to avoid here, where this middle bit doesn't go right up, diagonal, and you get like a sort of half-hearted W shape. And here we have an X. We have to take our pens off for this. Diagonal, down for the first cross, pen off, go under there, up, and the washing line join. Here is diagonal, straight across, back down, and put a bit of flair in there to do the join. And we've already talked about our E, where it has to scoop round or sweep round to do that E. These are what I call the odd ones out. I have to teach those. They don't form a really good pattern. So, the other consideration is when you're starting to join words, which of the letters of the alphabet end with that washing line? So we have to think how to join from there. And you only have these letters which end with a washing line rather than a flick coming up from the line. So we know what they are: diagonal, hook over, back and round, catch the hook, washing line, and then the same again, the bridge, washing line. And then the V, whatever letters that leads on to, and the W, and the X. And so in terms of our E, showing you how they join from a washing line and from a leader from the line there. So when we have to add to that E, we have to dip down with our washing line to fit in the E there, and we have to swoop round there for our E. And that's it. You don't need to spend months and months and years teaching joined handwriting. You can teach it so quickly, and when you've taught it and explained the rationale of which are the joins and how to join those letters together, you can have an overnight transition for those students to do fully joined handwriting, beautifully spaced out with a flair. And that's what we're aiming to do, is to send out every pupil from our schools with a good handwriting style. Thank you.